Shall we start now? Yeah. Thank you for everyone to join this seminar that presented by ING and have logistics support by Austrian. This seminar will look at the ways to maximizing your MPF portfolio and also enhance your knowledge in test effective investment strategy. And I think that this seminar can help Australians to grow their assets while enjoying Hong Kong tax saving. For speaker Jenny, she has over 10 years experience in real estate and financial industry, and she also hosts a online program, Money and City. And in following, I would like to pass the time to Jenny and her team for the speaking. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Enjoy your lunch, and sorry to keep you wait. My name is Jenny, and it's a very nice introduction. Today we will talk about tax-efficient investments. I have a team of 5. Collectively, we have over 100 years of experience. So our objective is to add value to your portfolio while you are here in Hong Kong, and so when you return to Australia, you will have the maximum tax efficiency as well. And in return, we are scheduling private meetings with you afterwards. So my teammates will be taking care of private clients, and I hope, if you have time, definitely set up a meeting with them, and they will help you for sure. So I will be talking about wealth management first, and then the next part, tax efficiency. How much, how often, and where do you put your MPF contributions? How much? $2,500. How often? Monthly. Where? There are lots of choices in the MPF market. 19 trustees, 41 registered MPF schemes, 22 fund categories, and over 500 fund choices. Most of all, it is how you manage your MPF that makes the huge difference. Would you like to earn millions of dollars more when you retire? Who does not? This is a nice retirement. How about a retirement deluxe? So, MPF, basically, there are 3 parts. 5% from your own income, 5% from your employer, and then accumulate the account from all your previous employments. ECA, Employee Choice Arrangement or Transferability. With the introduction of ECA last November, now you can actually choose your own service providers, meaning you can transfer your account to any other service providers. So, what should you do? How can you grow your MPF without an extra penny? I would say, review your MPF, consolidate your overall investments, build and manage your own portfolio with a professional. So how can professional management enhance my MPF and our investment portfolio enlarge? So today I will give you 3 magic keys: champion trustee, diversification, and star wealth managers. In order to show you the power of a champion trustee, we have prepared 3 different cases for your reference. Now, case study 1. A projection is based on the past 10 years' performance of selected funds. We will project into the next 35 years with a monthly contribution of $2,500 or a total of $1 million Hong Kong. We will also assume that HSBC is a trustee or service provider. Anyone from HSBC here? So based on the above assumption, you will see how much difference it can make. The first category, we have picked guaranteed fund. So HSBC versus Fund A. In this chart, you can see that the difference between these 2 fund managers is over $1 million Hong Kong dollars. The second class, I have selected mixed asset fund, which is composed of 60 to 80% equities. So HSBC versus Fund B. So in this chart, you can see that the difference is close to $2.5 million. The third class, I've picked Hong Kong equities. How many of you have actually selected Hong Kong equities for your MPF? Including myself, congratulations. Let's look at it. So in 35 years, very amazingly, you could have generated over $30 million. You would think, are you serious? Let's look at the details. The difference between two different fund managers, HSBC and this fund manager C, is actually 28 million. Now let's take a closer look at Hong Kong, at the performance of Hong Kong equities in the past 10 years. Then you can see to the analogy. Fund C, that's the red line, outperforming the other two. So considered you have put in $300 in 10 years, it would have generated over $600,000 for you. That means you would have doubled in that past 10 years. I think that's the past 10 years when we start our MPF. So meaning our annualized return is about 16%. So the PS average actually is not too bad. It's close to 60%. And the annualized return is over 9%. Now, however, if you picked HSBC as your service provider, even though you're in the same category, Hong Kong Equity Fund, the performance is quite different. We are talking about only a bit more than 30% return, and the annualized is only 6.44. So this is what happened in the past 10 years. So based on this, that's what I have projected into the next 35 years. However, just by looking at you, I'm sure none of you will be working for the next 35 years. How about, let's say, 25 more years? Immediately, you can see that the difference has diminished a lot. Sorry. So now we are talking about less than $6 million difference. Okay, and how? And you can see that if you have put in $750,000, that is in 25 years, your return would be actually 10 times if you have selected this fund C. Whereas if you have selected HSBC, it's still not too bad, you're still making a profit, just not as good. It's pretty intriguing, isn't it? So let's look at HSI in the past 25 years, since I was talking about 25 years projection. So if we backtrack the past 25 years, very interestingly, 1987, that was the time when we had a huge crash in the stock market. I was very small at that time, but I remember that. So if you look at it, we are exactly about 10 times from where we were 25 years ago. So if we have, let's say, if there's a pattern in history, so it's very likely, or it is actually likely that we could achieve that 10 times in the next 25 years. So, second key, diversification. It's interesting that we practice diversification every day without even knowing it. How many of you have only one bank account? Nobody? Why? Because you don't want to put all the eggs into one basket. You want to diversify. But when we apply this principle into the financial market, let's see how it works. So this is a 10-year snapshot of S&P sector returns. So we are talking about many different sectors here: energy, financials, healthcare, consumer discretionary, IT, and so on and so forth. Now what we want to say is that, can you find one box that has the same color for the same 10 years? I cannot. So in order to demonstrate the principle, I have selected two different sectors: consumer discretionary and energy. So you can see that there are times when they move in opposite directions, and there are times that they move in sync. So what is the message here? I want to say that you need to diversify because you don't want your portfolio to tank when the market is not in favor of what you have selected. You want to have, the least correlation so that when something is up, something might be down, and on average, you will be doing well. And let's see how it applies to different asset classes. Here we've got fixed income, large cap, small cap, medium cap, and so on. And again, if you try to track the same box with the same color continuously for 10 years, I cannot find any of them. Maybe you will see many of the same colors at the bottom. Let's take a look of this box. We are talking about fixed income here. So apparently, it's much easier to stay at the bottom than to stay on top. But who wants the worst performer? Nobody. So diversification maximizes your potential gain and minimizes your loss over the long run. Style wealth managers. I have a team of 5. They're all well qualified and experienced. I'm sure they can help you. So what do you choose when you select a wealth manager? Credibility, expertise, strong company support, experience, and what else? Anyone wants to take a wild guess? Professionalism. We want professional wealth management. So what is the message? What are we trying to share with you today? The message is MPF reinforces the need of retirement planning by our government and the success of long-term investments by dollar cost averaging. Unfortunately, it is only a very small portion of your wealth. Private wealth management. What we do is to provide you with tailor-made solutions based on your individual needs and objectives, short, medium, or long term. It is a holistic approach to provide you with more comprehensive solutions. Examples: property financing, estate, inheritance, and tax-efficient planning. In the following charts, you will see the difference between a typical Hong Kong investor and an international one. Now, a typical Hong Kong investors actually would have at least 70% in property. I'm sure this is no news for you in Hong Kong. And investments about 10%, cash about 10%, and others about 10%. So when I say investments, I mean stocks, bonds, REITs, hedge fund, and ETF, etc. And others is like antiques, sports car, paintings, wine, you name it. So let's see the difference with an international portfolio. It's more like 40% into property, 40% into investments, 10 into cash, and 10 others. So I would believe that most of you here would be, let's say, in between local and international. Would that be a good guess? Yeah, I see some people nodding their heads. I'm happy, so we can talk. And why do I need professional wealth management? Simply put, time is money. Why don't you work hard on making it, and we'll make it work even harder for you? So, after all the hard facts, how about taking you to a nice dinner on us? This is the stage. We want to talk about wealth management in terms of a more delightful, relaxing manner. So let's say if we are taking you through a full course dinner, the first stage, appetizer, that's wealth creation. So this is the stage when we just start our career and would like to take most risk to achieve higher return over the long run. That's why regular savings can help you in the beginning, and when you have got some lump sum with you, then you can put it in as a lump sum. Of course, you can do it as a combo anytime you want as well. So this is creation part. Second part, main course. I'm sure everybody likes, at least for me, I love juicy steak. So this is a stage for preservation. And what do we do for you? As a wealth manager, we try to help you to readjust your portfolio. And why do I say that? This is the stage when you just start your family with kids. Any one of you here are married and have kids? I know one of them. And as soon as you're married with kids, what happens? You become more conservative, you want to build up your assets but more carefully, your objectives, priorities, risk tolerance, just about everything is changing. That's why talking to a wealth manager can help you readjust your portfolio. Now this is the most beautiful part, tiramisu, but I love it. So why would I compare dessert to wealth succession? This is the part when you have already done all the hard work in life. You have accumulated so much money. Why do we all work so hard here? I would like to say that it is not for ourselves. It is for people we care about. It is for the society. It's for the world. But then when that one day comes, what do you want to know? You want to know how you can leave your money with the most tax efficiency and the minimum conflicts. I think especially with Asians or Chinese in Hong Kong, you can see that people fighting for inheritance all the time on the news, even though we do not have state tax here. So what can we do to help you? Insurance and trust. Allow me to say that MPF is a nice glass of champagne from our government. How many of us can actually survive on just drinking alcohol alone, even though it could be the most expensive? And may I compare ourselves to the provider of a nice full course dinner? So, in addition to a nice dinner, what exactly can we do for you as your wealth managers in reality? Let's look at some real cases. Wealth creation. This is a portfolio I designed for a client of mine who is young and aggressive, has a long-term view, and can withstand short-term volatility. Apparently, he aims to achieve a higher return. It is well diversified geographically and sectorially, with an emphasis in Asian equities. Let's look at the composition here. So I have selected a few different managers into a few different areas. So BlackRock, Global Pacific Equities, Fidelity, Indonesia, Templeton, US Equity, Henderson, Asia Property Equities, Henderson, Global Technology. So in terms of sectors, I've got properties and technology. Geographically, I've got Asia and the US. I think most of it actually is in the Asia region, or Asian equities. Now, this one actually, I have divided it equally, so it's 20% each. And let's look at the performance. My client's portfolio in the past 1 year has generated 35.26%. If you compare it to the benchmark, it's a little bit higher. But if you look at 3 years, it's similar. 5 years, that's a huge difference. So this portfolio actually shows you the need and the importance of diversification. And what did I say earlier? It is champion, trustee, and diversification. So trustee is, let's say us, for example, we provide this platform for you where you can mix and match, choose whatever you think is suitable for you. And so diversification is how we do it geographically and sectorially. And style wealth manager, obviously, you need to talk to someone who actually can understand you, and someone, more importantly, is that you can trust and work with in the long run. So this part actually is working pretty well with my client, for example. So let's look at the volatility. Other than performance, one of the very important factors we should pay attention to is the volatility. So for this portfolio, we have an average 3 years portfolio volatility at 1650. And if you compare it to benchmark, it's pretty close. But the long-term performance, my client's portfolio actually outperformed the benchmark by far in 5 years, for example. Now this is an input that is not only from my side. I need to talk to him because very interestingly, this guy particularly, I saw many of you actually are from audit firms. This guy actually works in an audit firm too. And for those of you who are auditors, know that it's very hard for you to buy stocks because you need approval and you need clearance and so on. And the same for mutual funds. So it's important that somebody can actually walk you through the process and help you to select what is compliance friendly for you and at the same time performing. So I would think this is a successful case. So this is a 5 years chart performance. So you can see that my client's portfolio in the past 10 years actually outperformed the benchmark a lot. So he has generated 50%, and the benchmark is only like about 10%. So you would say, what if I'm not young and aggressive? What if I'm married with kids? I want something more conservative. Then let's look at this preservation portfolio. This is a portfolio I designed for a friend of mine, a client of mine, who has just started a young family and would be conservative. He's happy with a stable return, and half of his portfolio is in bonds because that can give him more stability, while the other half I put it into emerging and frontier market equities so that he would be able to generate more returns. Now let's look at the composition here. Well, again, we've got a few different fund managers in different areas. We've got Templeton Emerging Market Bonds, Templeton, this is another Templeton Global Bonds, and together I've got 50% of his portfolio into bonds already. That makes him happy because he wants more stability. He's not greedy. And the other parts, I've got Value Partners High Dividend Stocks, Baring ACN, Templeton Emerging Markets, and JP Morgan ACN. So this other parts makes up the other 50% of his portfolio. Where you would have more alpha, that's how you can, hopefully generate more return. And may I ask, how many of you actually have exposure to the emerging market or frontier markets here? Excellent. So although you have very short-term volatilities, I would say quite often, but the return has been doing pretty well. So it's good for people who have long-term view. Now, but if you mix it with some bonds, actually, it would reduce your risk dramatically and increase your return pretty amazingly. Let's see how it works. In 1 year, he actually has generated 22.51%, whereas the benchmark is actually even higher in a 1 year parameter. 3 years, benchmark is also really higher. His portfolio is about 40, and benchmark is 44. But then you can see the 5 years, in the long run, actually, you can see on the next page, we actually did even better. Now, we want to talk about volatility here. It's only 13, whereas you would take a lot more risk in that benchmark portfolio, 16, 17. So this chart shows you his portfolio backtested against benchmark over 5 years. So you can see that 5 years, actually, he has generated more than 3 times, the backtest, than benchmark. So like I said, those of you who have actually got exposure into frontier markets or emerging market should be doing pretty well. And if you want more stability, you want to diversify. Again, you can pick some bonds that has consistent performance, and at the same time, reasonable volatility that you would not be like freaking out from time to time. Wealth succession. Due to globalization, our assets and family tend to be more internationalized than ever. How many of you actually plan to move back to Australia? Some of you, I would think. So, and how many of you have assets in Hong Kong and in Australia or some other countries? Quite a few. Now, and I would assume that some of you have children here, and they might be studying abroad, and they could have girlfriends or boyfriends somewhere else. Now then, when that one day happens, when you want to pass your wealth to the next generation, and I deal with that every day, it actually can be pretty complicated. I imagine if, let's say, an Indian client of mine, the grandparents are in India, so they have a lot of assets there. The parents are in Hong Kong, but they travel all overseas, and they have assets here and there. and the children actually study in the UK or the US, and they want to move there. And the nationalities also change with the marriage. So in that case, what can we do? We help you to plan ahead so that you know in different jurisdictions you can have advantage or disadvantage. You will see how you can put it one way or the other and create a difference. So there are mainly 3 different things we can do: insurance, actually 2, and trust. So universal life insurance is one of the most tax-efficient and cost-effective way of passing wealth to your family, especially for high net worth individuals like yourselves. How many of you have heard of this term, universal life? Not many, right? It's just starting to be more popular. It's very interesting because I think in the past few years, because the stock market has been very volatile and not really moving much, at least in Hong Kong, I noticed, at least in terms of my high net worth clients, many of them are paying more attention to insurance and estate planning because they want to plan ahead. So universal life is a kind of insurance policy where we can actually finance you. So just like buying a property, we finance your premium and give you a fixed interest per year. It's just like receiving rental income. So you give us a little bit of deposit, like buying a flat, and we finance the rest. And every year you get a certain percentage, like a rental yield. So with very low interest rate, let's say plus or minus 2% a year, your leverage is huge. Let's say if your premium is $1 million US, it takes you 50 years to actually be paying your full amount. And who knows what would happen. You can even break down your interest payment to a monthly basis. So you can calculate the leverage there. Plus you are actually earning interest as well. Trust. Confidentiality and tax efficiency can be assured with some of our trust setup. Now I have to have a disclaimer here because our license does not cover tax. It's only through some of the investment vehicles we have that they have some sort of setup where you can put whatever you have in the portfolio underneath a wrapper that they have, like a trust account or something. And it's really necessary that we talk to you individually and look at your nationalities, jurisdictions, your family structure, and what you plan to do in the private meetings. This is pretty much a summary of ING, what we do here. We give you independent financial advice. We are customer-centric. We have staff of managers that give ourselves some credit here. And these are some of the providers that we work with, and there are many others. So in conclusion, what would I say today? Stay invested and stay diversified. I hope you have enjoyed your lunch. This is my biography. Yeah, the online radio program actually is in Chinese. And I will pass the next, whatever, 10, 15, 20 minutes to my teammates. We've got Nick, Kingsley, and Derek. So they're taking care of individual clients. We will be scheduling meetings with you, and my assistant here should come to talk to you and see if you would, want to match the calendar. And thank you very much. My name is Jenny. I hope you find it helpful. Thank you very much. Feel free to ask questions and talk to Derek, Kingsley, and Nick. Any of you want to have some questions? Yes?
Can you expand the premium financing?
Yes.
So you buy a universal life insurance policy and you put down a deposit and you guys finance it and give us the money back?
Okay. I'll give you an example. For example, one of my clients, he's 40 years old. He's buying $5 million coverage, and he's 40 something. So his premium is 1 point something, less than 1.5. All right. So what we do is that before we did 30% deposit, just like buying a flat. We finance you with 70%. So meaning you give me $0.5 million, I give you $1 million. So what we do as a provider, service provider, is that, so I talk to you, I fill the forms and stuff, and then I go to a few places, different insurance companies, for example, and obviously you need to do a health check and stuff. Then they will give you the final quote, let's say, price. And so I have to talk to a few banks as well, and see, got to tell them what we do, the finances and stuff, and try to get you the best deal. So I actually, it's like representing you to get the two parts together. So if you choose to, you can actually even finance at 30%, but I have to work with you on a different day or something.
Where's the income come from?
The income, right? Okay. Sorry, I forgot that part. So let's say if you have $1.5 million, you put it 0.5. So that $1 million from the bank. Let's say you borrow it from, let's say Credit Suisse, or from us. So from Bank of Singapore, for example. Then that 1 million, you're gonna return about, let's say, plus or minus 2% a year. So you pay the bank about 20,000 plus or minus a year. But in your insurance policy, insurance company, let's say you buy that from us, from ING Life. So ING actually pay you about, I don't know, like 4% plus or minus a year. That's a minimum guarantee. Let's say about 4% plus or minus, that's a good estimation. So the money that you receive in your insurance policy stays there. But then you, from your own bank account, you will set up an auto pay to pay back what you owe the bank. So when that, let's say my client's case, if and when that day happens, his wife is gonna get 5 million minus the loan. So minus 1 million. So she would get $4 million.
So if you're borrowing 2% and so life insurance will give you 4% a year?
Plus or minus, yes.
I thought you only get the payout when something happens.
Sorry, what?
I thought in the insurance policy, there's only payout when the insured passes on.
Yes, that's what happened. Now that
But you say you're getting insurance during
during the time.
This one will also
Because this is
have
for
an
high net-
investment element, so
Yeah.
there is a, what we call a reversionary bonus. There are bonuses that accumulate within the plan, so it does create an income, but that is typically reinvested within the product. So there is an investment element to it, where you will accumulate dividends and bonuses. So it's a slightly more enhanced version of what you're describing.
So this is referred to like one of ILPs, investment-linked products?
No, it's completely different.
Different from ILP. So when do you actually have access to the money? I guess that's the main question. Do you have to die to get access to the money?
No. The money that, let's say, the $500,000 and the 1 million from the bank, so you got 1.5 in the insurance policy, right? Now, it's growing there because like what Nick said, the insurance company actually use that money to invest. There's an investment value there, right? So it's growing every year. It is growing every year because at least they have a minimum guarantee for you. You will not have a loss there. So his question, when can you draw the money out? Okay. So first of all, that 1 million is from the bank. You got $500,000 there, right? So you can always draw the money out, but it will affect your, the death benefit and so on. And that's a much higher interest. If you borrow from the insurance company, it's just not, normally people don't do that because it's much higher.
I think the key behind Johnny's comment here would be that there is potential access to the money before that event potentially occurs,
Yeah.
but you would have to view it as a medium-term solution for it to work for you. In the early years, it potentially wouldn't be.
Because in Australia we have superannuation, so which is compulsory and we can do this in superannuation. So I assume this is the alternative we can do in Hong Kong to replace superannuation. Superannuation obviously we have access to that part. 55, 60, I can't remember the age. Obviously you won't have that money when you retire, say 65 now, it's not even worse now. Anyway. So I guess the question is, this money can go to $20 million for a kid. When do we have access to the $20 million?
Yeah, we know the number.
Yeah, $20 million for my kids.
Sure. I guess probably sitting down and discussing on a case-by-case basis would be the way to go. Because there's so many different scenarios as to how to specific.
So with the 4%
Yes.
minus or plus
Plus or minus
return
interest.
that we mentioned every
Yes.
year, can I draw it every year to pay the bank back the interest or not really?
Theoretically, I can say technically and theoretically, yes. But when you draw money out from that account, especially in the early stage, and God forbid something happened to you, then it affects your death benefit. And it's not a straight line equation. Don't ask me, I don't know how to calculate it. They have actual risk. So meaning, you think, oh, I'm going to draw like, I have like $1 million there. What if I draw, let's say, 50,000? I have done it myself many years ago. But then you think that if something happened or if you want to cancel your policy, your cash value only minus 50, right? But it's not. They've got a different formula to do that. So I wouldn't say it is the way that you count on drawing money. But let's say if you say, well, you know what, I'm married now, and I plan to be married forever. But if something happened, let's say 10 years later, something happened, and then you know what, I don't have a family anymore, I don't have children, I want to just I don't want any obligations, I don't have any more responsibilities, I don't need this protection. Then normally, let's say within 10 years, whatever you have put in, your premium is actually at least equals to the cash value in your policy. So what you can do is, you know what, I don't want it anymore, Jenny, I give you back. So the cash value is already equals to the premium. That means you get a free protection for that past 10 years. So remember, if something happened, your wife is still going to get 5 million. But for you, you have only packed in $500,000.
Does that actually include an insurance, a life insurance component where, let's say I borrow $1 million from the bank, if something does happen to me, the insurance will cover that $1 million? Will that $1 million have to get paid back?
Yes, the insurance, because you have assigned the insurance policy to the bank. So if something happened, the bank will get the death benefit and minus the loan first. Then they will pay to your spouse. It's a very good question. I'm glad I've got questions here. And yes, please do.
Can ING Financial Planning shop the banks for refinance some offshore property?
Okay, we have, let's say, because we want to be more competitive and we are trying to be more resourceful, so we have our own connections to different, let's say, companies where you can get that. But through our own platform, not on the official platform, we don't do that. But through our resources, yes, we do.
At
Yes.
the beginning, you talked about when I was asking MPF and MPF performance and choosing the funds. Are you advising that relative just to the MPF contributions in the MPF fund, or would you recommend putting additional contributions into the MPF?
Very good question. Any of my teammates want to answer that?
Well, again, okay, I'll take the pass. I would suggest that we prefer a view on a case-by-case basis. MPF has its value, but I think as we touched upon very early on, it's only a very small piece of people's overall wealth. It is quite expensively charged, so there may be other alternatives that you maybe would look at to diversify your position. So we have access to things other than MPF is only a small piece of the value. Does that answer your question? I'm sorry. Don't need to just put them in and then yeah, that would be exactly it.
Actually, if you're interested in more specifically about the Australian taxation part, again, I have to get a disclaimer. I work with one of those financing companies, and the way that they do it normally is that you can, I'm sure most of you love properties. I think Australians love to buy properties. And so what you can do is you can borrow against your properties in Australia. They give you, more, and you borrow more. Then you can invest more with us or not. And so whatever you have invested here, I think is tax-free. And then when no capital gain tax here. So the day when you retire, move back to Australia, you can consolidate. That means you can lock the profit. But whatever you have booked here, it's not subjected to tax. So that means when you go back to Australia, obviously you start the investments again, then you will have to pay capital gain tax. But because you have borrowed more money, and the way they do it is, I think there's a negative gearing there. There's a rental cost and blah, blah, blah. So then they have saved up some sort of, that's called tax credits for you. Let's say they have saved up this much tax credit for you. So maybe when you move back to Australia, the first 3 years, you don't have to pay tax at all. That's a very simple way to put it. I'm not licensed to say that, but just a reference. Many of you here are auditors. I'm sure you have more questions. And lawyers. So maybe I can ask you, like, how many of you actually are managing your own wealth, or you actively talking to a private banker or financial advisor, or in the process of looking for one, and so on?
I do have a question. Sorry, sorry, I came late. Why I keep Hong Kong? I didn't take out MPF, so I don't have MPF right now. My main question is, if I have superannuation in Australia, do I have to have? I mean, should I take? My main question is, should I take an MPF out in Hong Kong? That's
Rena is our MPF manager here. She knows it very well. She can answer your question.
So you mean you don't have your MPF right now?
I don't have MPF right now, but I have a superannuation in Australia.
Okay.
But if I'm gonna stay in Hong Kong, let's say in the medium term, maybe let's say 7 to 10 years,
Yes.
should I take MPF on?
Officially, we need to have MPF contribution, even we work for others or we are employer under the law. If you have any MPF contributions, you may cash it out when you decide to return to Australia for good, and for what?
Oh, sorry. No, it just because when I came in as a secondment, they're saying, oh, because you're a secondment, you have super, you don't have to have MPF. So I don't.
You are exempted.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You are exempted. For your case,
That's right.
if you do have your pension in Australia, some of Australian may be exempted. You don't have to put MPF contribution, but I need to do more information.
I suggest that you've got any other really client-specific questions that you leave us your contact details and we can obviously, rather than you maybe all have them, so very specific questions maybe we can take it up on an individual basis.
I think Daniel and Daniela, you guys were paying a lot of attention. If you have some questions, I mean, feel free to ask. I will answer as much as I can.
With the cash out that you just talked about, how you can cash out when you go back to Australia. So there's no kind of penalties, there's no cost, and what is the sort of process to cash out?
For MPF?
Yeah.
Rena can answer that one.
We don't have any penalty. We don't have any extra charges. If you decide to go back to Australia, we have forms. You can, of course, you can call us and get that, or you may check that at the MPFA, the MPF authorization, and you get the forms, and then you fill it, and then return to your existing service provider, and they will give you the check. And please bank in before you return to Australia, because that will be tax-free. You cash your check here in Hong Kong, not bring it back to, cash it before you go back. The service provider will redeem all your MPF contributions into cash and then pay you tax. Because they would not transfer the MPF accrued benefits to your bank account direct. They will give you a check.
I think I was here last time. Some people were asking about whether they actually benefit from investing more here in Hong Kong rather than, whether they want to take a loan from the properties and invest more in Hong Kong instead, benefit there. Would that be something that you would be interested to know about? Yeah, maybe Nick can talk about that. What is the advantage if they borrow against their properties in Australia and they want to invest, and how can we help them? Or would they be better off?
Well, again, I would suggest that would be on a case-by-case basis. Certainly using my experience within the UK, I think it's broadly similar to how it's positioned in Australia, that if you have equity within your property portfolio, you can theoretically draw down that equity and use that capital to invest elsewhere, whether that's to buy another property or invest in mutual funds or diversified investment strategy. I guess the key is if the cost of borrowing is less than the return that you're getting on your investment portfolio, then it's better use of the capital rather than leaving it locked up in an illiquid asset.
But
How
because you,
distinct for Australian tax then? No, it just doesn't have this.
The only thing I'll add to that is just share with fellow Australians. A lot of Australian banks, they have private banks here, so you can actually refinance that in the currency with much better rates. So don't just draw that on your Australian bank.
yeah, I think that's one kind of key point, very good point. Recently, our clients, Australian clients are also considering that, and it's also some auditors, because the interest, I mean, the Australian dollars dropped quite a bit recently, so many of them were thinking, what should they do with the currency? But the good news is that actually, if you borrow in Hong Kong dollars or Australian dollar, whatever you want, you can always shift it back. So meaning, if you have apparently you have a paper loss, but then you have to realize that you can shift it when it's to your advantage later. So I think there's no penalty for that one. Now, I hope I have been helpful, and this is a form where you can give us your information. Some of you have given us your business card, and I will be sending you email. And how we work is that I will CC one of the managers here today, so they will contact you directly. And this is a form where I hope you can, if you have a question in particular, they can prepare in advance or answer you in the private meetings later. So I'll just pass it to you. I think I gave you a pen when we start. I think one of you actually is from a law magazine here. I saw the front. Yes, Daniel. So, what is your interest? As a magazine publisher.
Yeah, we're a global publisher, and the titles that I work on are essentially ranking of lawyers, dispute lawyers, or intellectual property lawyers, like analysis and business publication of digital and hard copy for lawyers.
That's interesting. Because actually, I have been developing this corporate standards. So next month, actually, we will be going to end of next month. We are going to the British Chamber, and then if by any chance you think your publication would like to invite us and talk to your members, we'll be most delighted. And I find this tax-related or tax-efficient investments topic pretty useful. So unless you have something else you want us to talk about, we can do that too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Got too many things.